Now, looking back, and you mentioned it briefly about your injury, your debut match, it's in Montreal. It's against John Cena. You tear your rotator cuff. Now, we can look back now and say, yeah, that's a layer. You can use that going forward. Even in your promos now, you could use it. Because that's where it all starts, and it ends up being a great part of the story. But at the time, what do you feel when that happens? And did you know what happened when it happened?
No, I didn't really know, because it was a two-pronged thing. So first, I throw my arm up on the stairs, and something pops, but it's so fast that I don't even know what happened, but I just go, oh boy, what was that? Yeah. But everything seems fine. If you watch the footage back, I'm moving my arm, everything's fine. I just think, oh boy, I don't know what that was. And then 2 minutes into the match, he gives me a back suplex, and I know my shoulders popped out. And I'm trying to just roll onto the apron, but I can't. My arm is dead, so I just can't even roll over. And then I guess when I finally do roll over, my arm falls back into place, but I don't know really what's going on, because I've never dislocated my shoulder or had that kind of shoulder problem. I separated it once, but it felt nothing like that. So I didn't know, and I just thought it's one of those wrestling things, especially back in the day when people kind of neglected their injuries. You'll hear somebody say something like, oh, my shoulder popped out, but popped it right back in. Kept going, brother, or whatever, it's just something you hear, my shoulder popped out, and then it popped back in. So I didn't think it was a huge deal. But then the next day or that night, I'm told I need surgery, and I go, what? It just popped out. It's back in now. I'm fine.
Yeah.
But I guess that's not how it works.
Well, it's what happens while it pops out, or what tears while it pops out. Yeah.
Yeah. Now I know that.
Yeah.
Forever learning. So I found out I did a lot of damage when it popped out. It ripped up my labrum, and the rotator cuff's torn and all this stuff. So it was a bittersweet night, because I'll remember that night forever. Again, you talk about the difference between the fans playing their part and a genuine reaction. The ovation that I got that night is probably the most special ovation I've ever got, because it was so guttural and it was so real. It was I don't know how to even describe
genuinely
it.
happy to see you there.
And even the way Bret kind of kept leading up to it, it's with each sentence he said, they're like, wait, is he talking about, is this really going to happen? And then finally he announces my name, and man, I'm getting goosebumps even talking about it now. It was just so raw. That reaction was so raw. It'll definitely be I'll take that reaction with me when my career's over. But then, the memory of the match itself is a little cloudy because of the injury and the ups and downs and everything else. So it was just a very emotional night, mixed emotions, but like you said, it's all part, you don't see it at the time, but now, years later, it's all part of the story of who Sami Zayn is, and I could use that in a promo tomorrow if I had to.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. If I had to talk about, now that I'm, in this new direction of the character, I could use it in a braggadocious kind of way. I ripped my shoulder out and kept going. That's just the kind of guy I am. But that tells the fans who you are. Things like that. Mm-hmm. Which are things you could never plan in a million years, but that tells the fans who your character is,
Yeah, and it's one more notch on the belt of, I did things the right way, and look what it got me.
Right.
There's so many.
And that's what also makes wrestling so special, is that we get gifted these things that we never could have planned.
Which on paper, yeah, and on paper, I'm sure at the time you weren't too happy about it, obviously. But right. Now, looking where we are back now, you can use it now, and it's okay. See, there is some positives to pull out of it, and it in the audience's eyes, it makes you tougher. It's okay, he's been through some wars.
And the thing is too, it's real. It's real life. It really happened. It wasn't scripted or written on a piece of paper or talked about in a meeting. It was something that really happened, and you can twist that and use it any way that you want to, because it really happened.
Yeah, and the same thing with Finn. Going back to Finn, the same thing happened to him, but probably on an even bigger scale. He was about to win the Universal title. So, that's even bigger than debuting against Cena in your hometown, And he wins the world title, but then he's got to forfeit it the next night. And I go, I told him, look, this probably isn't what you want to hear now, but this is actually going to help you. because, you know, our fans are very fickle. And I think going back to what you were saying earlier about NXT is a great place to develop, but then you come up on the main roster, there's sometimes a disconnect there. And my theory on that is because in NXT, they're with you on that journey, and they feel responsible for making you. You know, they're with you on that whole ride, so they take you to you know, they make you the finished product that you are. And then one day you show up on WWE TV, and most of the audience doesn't know who you are, and all they're getting is this finished product. But they have no emotional attachment to this finished product because they weren't along with you for the journey. So Finn comes up, and, you know, they don't really all know him. I mean, at this point, NXT has a lot more steam, so a lot of them kind of know of him at least. But then all of a sudden he wins the world title or the universal title overnight. Fans have a tendency to kind of reject that when they don't struggle with you. So in a weird way, him getting hurt and having to forfeit the title did more for him to garner sympathy or to, you know, endear him to the fans' hearts than actually winning the title.
It'll be a slow build instead of a forced build. And you know, the flip side of that too is, you know, it's kind of like, you know, your favorite underground band, they're your band.
Right.
And then when everybody else catches wind of it, you kind of go, oh man, they're not my band anymore. They're everyone's band. So there's the danger of losing that core audience, that NXT audience that helped kind of grow this character too. It can be a tough little you know, razor's edge to walk on sometimes.
Yeah, well, that's what makes what we do so interesting. You know, like you can do everything the right way, or like quote unquote the right way, or like the way it worked for Shawn or the way you worked for Austin, and it won't come out the same. It's like two people baking the same recipe for a chocolate cake, and they come out tasting completely different, you know?